Okay, so we're recording this session, everybody. Introduce Simon. Simon's kindly come today to give us his time. Simon works for the York and North Yorkshire Growth Hub. He's a great partner to the university here. Actually, he's a colleague also of, you might not know Emma, but Emma manages the Enterprise Centre in the Cordukes building. So feel free to take a look at the Enterprise Centre. That's for businesses to occupy, and they operate out of that centre there, either physically or they can have a virtual membership as well. It's a great space on campus for external businesses, but also student businesses as well. So you might need some space in the future to work on your idea or your enterprise and do that. So I'll leave you in the safe hands of Simon.
Thanks, Richard. Yeah, morning all. Do all of you know Emma in the Enterprise Centre? You don't. It's Emma's part of my team, so we manage that site there in partnership with the unit. If you're all here because you're looking at setting your own business, I'd really encourage you to go and have a look and just see what's going on there, because it's not just the desk that you get, it's everything that comes with it. So there's regular events going on. There's all sorts of stuff. Morning, Vishal. You all right? That Vishal's one of the team that works in the Enterprise Centre. So go and have a look. It's 2 minutes walk. Just behind us. Yeah. Okay, so what we're going to do today, I don't just want to sit here and talk at you for a couple of hours, because you'll get thoroughly bored and it won't be particularly successful. So what I'd like to do is have this almost as like a conversation, really. So you'll get as much out of it as fair to put in it. So if you're happy to share your ideas, that will be really useful. It'll help prompt the conversation. Otherwise, I'll just talk it. You won't be out of it in about 20 minutes if we're not careful. So hopefully you've seen a little bit online before. So hopefully come across well. I spend all my time doing things like this, working with businesses, helping them, startups, established businesses, small businesses, large businesses. We exist at the Growth Hub to provide free support to businesses. So if you enjoy what you get out of today, hopefully you do. I don't want you walking out of here thinking, oh my God, he was useless, didn't know anything. If you come out of here thinking that's been really good, you're very welcome to keep in touch with us. It doesn't cost you anything at all. And like I said, you can access everything within the Enterprise Centre as well, to help support you in your journey of setting up a business. Do a quick one, Richard. I'll just that's good.
Yeah,
There we go.
put it back in presenter view.
Okay. So what I'm planning to do today is just go through the sort of key areas that I think you need to be thinking about when you're setting up a business. It won't cover everything because we're here for much more than a couple of hours, but I want you to, during the session, to be thinking about the important stuff before you even start spending your money or somebody else's money on your business idea. So every time I ask a question, we don't need to go around the room and get everyone to answer. But if you're happy to shout out, yeah, to start off with, why have you come along today?
I'm trying to make other people money.
Okay, you want to make some for yourself? Okay.
Some general business advice for starting something, I guess. More like direct professional knowledge rather than just what you can find online. So it does get more personalised.
Okay. Yeah.
I would like to create a subsystem with operational systems.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And I guess in terms of ambitions, is it as simple as you all just want to set up a business? And why do you want to set up a business? Do you want to be a millionaire? Or what is it what's your motivation setting up a business?
I like to scale up as much as possible. And
Okay.
most of the things, I think the idea of being here is like that initial business that you start on, what gets you the top of anything. But it's it's where you learn a lot of the stuff, like making those mistakes. I'd like to make those mistakes, learn about it, then so I can scale up and see how I can get, I guess.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Well,
So, like to create a system where people are complete transparency with their transactions, with their whole life, because right now technology is so involved with us, we might as well take control of what is getting so involved with us. And we don't really, we have so many data breaches, so many no privacy whatsoever.
yeah,
And I believe that that system will take it, will not only be secure, but completely transparent.
okay,
Yes.
okay, sounds interesting, okay. And have you thought much about the challenges that you'll meet along the way between sort of today and when you actually set up your business? You know, is there one or two big things that's stopping you now?
Yes, competition.
Right,
People that already do what I'd like to do,
Okay.
some of what I'd like to do. Some of them I've reached out to for advice and they seem very helpful and proactive. But then I'm also wondering, do I say too much and give them a bit like, well, we don't want to help them too much because it could be competition from their
Yeah.
perspective.
yeah,
So, however, I'm hoping to do something that is similar to what they do, but things that I can do that they can't do, for instance. So therefore, I'm not just doing what they're doing because they already do it and do it very well, and people know them, they come to them and they already have
yeah,
a business within themselves. So we're going to try and compete with that,
yeah,
not to undercut them,
okay,
do that. So that is the main thing I'm going to do. I actually have an idea here that is just going to end up replicating what they do already.
yeah,
Or I'm sure somebody somewhere in the world already does what I'd like to do, but I'm
Yeah.
not aware of them. So that is something where I'm going. I do have to actually make sure that what I'm doing is not just going to be end up, finding it later in the world, or somebody already does this,
yeah,
and they are an exact replica of me, but like 5 years ahead of me.
yeah.
So I need to make sure that that is something that's not going to happen.
Okay, well, that's absolutely part of what we're going to come across at some point. And I'm a big believer, a lot of people talk about USP, what's your USP? I don't actually think, this is just my personal, I don't think you necessarily need to have a USP. Because like you just said, sorry, is it Adam?
Yeah.
Yeah, like you just said, the chances are there's probably somebody doing what you want to do out there already. It's a big world, isn't it? And there's a lot of business already out there. A good example is coffee shops. If you go into York, how many good quality coffee shops are there in York? There's dozens and dozens out there. Have all those coffee shops, can they genuinely stand up and say they've got a USP? Probably not. Probably not. But what they're doing is they're serving, the ones that do well, they're serving good quality products at the right price with the service to match. And people are paying a ridiculous amount of money for it, so they get a sufficient market for that. So I don't think you have to do something that's unique. As time goes by, it gets harder and harder. It's just reality. But we're 2023 out. We're 2,000 years into the existence of doing business out. So the year goes by, it automatically gets harder and harder to be unique. But we'll get into that later on. There we go. So this is a bit like what you've just talked about there, Adam, really. So in terms of your idea, these are the sort of things that I think you ought to be thinking about when you're developing your idea. So are you solving a problem? Are you improving on something that's already out there? So in terms of what you said there, are you happy to share what your idea is?
Well, I've applied for the Discover Fund here, and I'm very lucky to say that I've been successful in it.
Mm-hmm.
What I'd like to do is, because I'm studying photography here, I'd like to buy a drone and start learning to use photography through drone technology.
Okay.
And because I'm an undergraduate, this is a postgraduate, because I did that in journalism, I'd like to combine the two with the postjournalism, but also using drone.
Okay.
And I know a lot of people here do drone photography, and that's a business, and they're experts in robotics, which is not really my area of interest.
Yeah.
But they also, whether or not they have somebody they can write for them, or they have they can write. I don't know. So that's the area I'd like to bring for that. And also, just because of the cost of living crisis in the climate that we're in, I'd like to be able to have some sort of motorhome or camper van or some sort of just mobile device that allows me to live small and can commute and travel. So the purpose isn't to become a millionaire, but it's to just to be able to have freedom, especially when the weather's like this, or you are able to work remotely,
Yeah.
especially after the pandemic.
Yeah.
Why, sit in a flat when you could sit in the middle of the countryside and do it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'd like to try and combine all those four things, which means that I could then do overseas, because I'm doing the study abroad thing at the moment, just to give me an insight to what it's like working, living and studying abroad, if the opportunity arises, or, God forsake, I can't get any work here, I could say, well, I'm going to go to Australia, or Canada, or something like that, and just and try it there. But mostly because everything is portable, I can just move wherever.
So you've got a drone and you're able to run.
I'm about to get it. I know what I'm going to get, and I'm going to then start doing all of the qualifications. But the problem with solves is the fact that people are looking for people to be multi-skilled and interdisciplinary. And if I can try and combine as many things as possible, that I can just do, not everything, but the things that I want to do in my area that interest me, then it doesn't mean you have to hire somebody just to do the writing or just to do the photography or just to buy a drone and can combine everything.
So who's the person sat out there now with your potential customer then? Because obviously there's you see now there are multiple uses of drones.
Yes. And also because everyone has a camera.
Yeah.
Everyone has a smartphone. Everyone can take pictures, but then have they gone through the rigmarole of doing the qualifications to get a drone? Or they may have bought a drone but can only use it for private use and not commercial use. So that has all been a really interesting learning curve to figure out how, I'm going to do that and separate myself from all those other people that can just take a picture anytime, anywhere.
Yeah.
But I think I would really like to do something with news organisations, because that was my background in journalism.
Okay.
And they're always looking for content that gets to their audience that isn't just words and pictures. It's either infographics or some sort of interactive is the new buzzword to keep people engaged.
Something that's quality.
Everybody else, yeah.
Right.
So I'll probably go there first because that is really the area that I'd like to get into. And that would also, I could work with an agency and that would help me travel.
And have you got an awareness of the different suppliers that news organisations use already in terms of drone footage? What your competition is?
Time you'll source stuff from like a photography pool like Getty Images, or they'll get a lot of images from AFP, Associated Press, and people like that.
Yeah.
But how much of their how much of their pool of photographers or their workers for them, their photographers, their journalists, are actually able to use a drone or can take drone pictures. I'm guessing not all of them. I'm not sure, so I need to research that.
Yeah.
But a lot of times they'll pull from third parties, or there'll be one person that takes the picture and that goes to a lot of things. So
it'd be interesting.
Somebody that does it just for them, unless it's like the New York Times or the Times or the Daily Times.
It'd be interesting for you to fathom out what you're offering that they aren't, Richard.
Just to give an interest of people online, if you're welcome to contribute, please just turn your mics off, and if you can, hope you can hear us okay. But yeah, please do contribute if you have anything, any questions. There's a Q&A or there's a chat, so please just put something in there. Sorry, Simon.
No, that's all right.
Just conscious we've got people online as well.
Yeah, no worries. Anybody else want to share what look at?
Yeah, so I'm going to start buying products off Alibaba, which is the shop, it's Amazon.
Okay.
And sell them on Amazon for whatever, for example, what I bought them for. The issue the main challenge I have is how to get my products up to the first 10 on the search engine, because people statistically don't go past the second page. Often don't even go past the first page.
I agree. Yeah.
So that's
who's ever clicked on page 2 of Google?
Yeah.
Not many.
So my issue is I don't want to start throwing money at advertising, a lot of money at advertising and get very little feedback.
That one there,
Mhm.
can you test it? Because when you said your idea there, I think, right, how many people out there must be doing that already?
A lot.
Buying off the supplier at a low price and then reselling at a higher
Yeah.
price. I mean, that's standard business, isn't it?
It is.
So is it something you're able to test to see actually, or do you at the moment,
Well,
do you think it will work?
I'm reaching out to suppliers, getting prices for 20, 30 sort of bits of product that I can then do a miniature test, and I think it cost me about £70. So with shipping and
Worth testing. Thinking, how long does it take to arrive?
5 to 9 days.
Right, okay, okay. And it's thinking about what product you buy as well and.
Well, what I did is I googled the top 15 most popular products on eBay. Fairly standard. It was cables, mobile phone brackets for cars,
Mhm,
socks, underwear, fragrance, computers,
yeah,
all the things. So what I thought I'd go for was socks
okay,
because they're cheap.
yeah,
They don't weigh a lot to sell on. They won't
Yeah.
break.
okay,
And they're obviously constantly needed.
okay.
So
Morning, you've not missed too much, we're just getting into it. What the bits we're talking about, we're really keen to hear from you as well as just listening into me. And have you taken into account the cost of you actually then, your logistics in terms of then posting everything out to the people?
no, this is
You,
literally the second week of the idea.
right,
And I just stumbled across this and I thought
okay,
I'd pop in and
okay.
see what.
Okay. My take on it would be it's all about probably high volume, low margin in that type of world. But then how do you structure your logistics so that you can deal with that volume? Because if it's just you, are you going to walk down to the post office every day to start posting all these individual items around?
Well, there's one in the village.
Right,
Living.
okay,
What you can do with Amazon FBA is if you set websites, they get it from Alibaba, but send it straight to Amazon distribution centres. So it'll never actually touch your house.
No,
It's
okay.
the distributor to Amazon.
Right,
And the others, you get the profits, but you don't have to worry about storage or anything. It saves you a lot of money.
right, okay. And what percentage would Amazon?
I've got no clue how I've no clue the statistics of it. I just know it's that they offer if you do it with send distributors and stuff. So it might just need to ask.
Absolutely.
If it saves you a lot of time, then.
Yeah.
that's a really good point because if you want to be receiving a parcel from Alibaba, you have to repackage, relabel and send out because all of that is eating into your efficiency
Absolutely.
and your margin.
No, what that chap just said is definitely 100% worth looking into.
Well, I think initially I'd say it's probably worth testing it and just doing it yourself. And then as you potentially look to scale, I think it's right. You want to get to the point where you're not actually touching any of this stock.
Yeah.
Because once you get into that, you're starting to think, I've got to buy storage and how do I check products so that I know what I'm sending Joe Blogs in Brighton is what is actually those 3 pairs of socks that he ordered or whatever it might be. Okay.
I think there's a lot of socks I can try with, as I say, the mobile phone car brackets.
But it's maybe with if it's a high volume, low margin model, maybe socks or something like that is a good example because you might buy them at £1. You could probably price them at £1.20. Your customer wouldn't.
Oh, yeah, I think the cheapest one on Alibaba was like $0.68 for a pair.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
I think there's 80 cents to the pound. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what that would
I
equate.
think it's a perfect thing to test because I don't know. Let's put it out to you. I know what I do. If people around the room, if you want to stick around in here, if you want to buy a pair of socks, would you pop into town and buy a pair of socks, or would you buy off the internet? Who would buy off the internet? Yeah, who just go to a shop locally and buy. Right. Okay. So there's your example of consumer behaviour straight away. So how I suppose what you need to do by testing it is make sure there's sufficient market where you're willing to buy the product you're looking to sell online.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm the same as all the people who put their hand to I wouldn't buy a pair of socks on the internet. Unless, I mean, I do loads of running, so if they were specific running socks, I might do.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, I tend to hop into town and go to M&S or wherever and buy my socks. So there's a lot of thought, I think, goes into what the product is that you're bulk buying
Mm-hmm.
there, because it's got to be something, hasn't it, that people would. People there needs to be that desire from the consumer to buy online, and then there needs to be that ability for you to put a good chunk of margin on there.
Yeah.
I'd imagine if where somebody lives, there isn't a store nearby, like we live here, so we can just go into a town centre.
Yeah,
or something.
Yeah,
So ultimately, where you live in the countryside and there isn't anywhere to go.
yeah, rural areas.
And therefore Amazon does their Prime Day or whatever it is, so they'll get there in a couple of days. It's easier to do that if they're working 9 to 5 and they've got busy lives. And price as well, they can get it cheaper than they can by going into the store. Obviously, they have to find somewhere to park if they drive in from, you know, so it's easier to do it online. So I'd imagine that's why if I was going to buy it online, that's why I'm doing it.
Yeah, okay. Anyone else want to go on?
My idea with so transparency and efficiency, because it also artificial intelligence. A subsystem that goes with any operational system like that combines artificial intelligence and blockchain right now doesn't exist. So it doesn't exist in an open market. Maybe it does exist within enterprises and big tech companies, but for us, the normal people of the world, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It is testable. It is testable by most tech companies. You need to start up a tech company, you need a traction, so you can always create a awareness, for example, and attract people and see is this idea really of some value to the world.
Yeah.
And that relates to the last questions.
Yeah, so I'm not a tech person at all, so do I understand what you're talking about? Absolutely not. I've no idea. So, but what I do understand is the cost of developing tech solutions. So if you wanted to test that,
Yeah.
do you need an awful lot of money to get a minimum viable product so that you can actually roll out and test what you're doing? And then therefore, it's on another slide coming up. How do you then raise that finance to get a product to at least be able to test and learn from and develop from?
For what I've been doing some research of because of that, because I know my idea would be very, very costly. My cost, what I said, a waiting list. If I come to you as an investor and I tell you, look, I have 1,000 people who want this product, I could get that funding.
Okay.
But it would be it is a challenge.
Yeah.
It's a challenge, but it's a challenge. I think it would be worth facing because of how the world is built now. It's literally everything you do in your life, in your daily life, in the Western world, is based on technology. There is nothing that is not based on technology.
Yeah.
Our lives, if you went from the 80s, you would buy a newspaper. Nobody reads the newspaper anymore. How do we know that newspaper is the one that you actually want to read, for example? Because the artificial intelligence subsystem that I'm trying to create would not only give you everything you would like and it would completely adapt to you, but it would also keep your data secure. So let's say I have an idea, right?
Yeah.
And then that idea, if I want to look for funding, it would be stored in the blockchain. And blockchain is an impenetrable technology that exists today because of its cryptographical aspects.
Yeah.
So it is a challenge for funding, but it is a challenge that can be there's a solution for that.
I think the solution is probably finding the investors who've got an interest in that specific area of IT, so they understand the development and the application of it and things like that. one thing we're trying to develop, and we're hopefully going to be rolling it out soon, is a York and North Yorkshire based network of angel investors, so that anyone who's got a business idea, regardless of that idea, can come along and pitch to those investors. That might be something that's just worth keeping an eye out. So,
What would it be called? It's not about.
say again, sorry.
What would the group of angel investors?
It's not called anything.
Okay.
It's not there yet. We need to get. We only got approval yesterday for the funding to actually set this thing up. The investors are out there. We just need to put it together. But if you keep in touch with, Richard mentioned the Enterprise Centre, well, Vishal's here from the Enterprise Centre. If you keep in touch with the guys there, they will know when we've got to the point where that is available for people to come along and pitch. So.
Is your idea using the blockchain to give people a curated service, but without then the companies having the availability to extract their data?
It is because blockchain, blockchain is like a book full of papers, and the thing that connects it would be this, right? So the spine of it is cryptography. So there's let's say, imagine a vault within a vault within a vault that then has a password that does not exist, but you know the password, but to anyone else it does not exist. It constitutes of a private key and a public key, and those the public key, there's something called hashing. Hashing is taking a value, password, and then putting it into a system that will completely randomize it, and then it is impossible for you to know unless you have that private key. It's only available to you unless you make the mistake and you're irresponsible enough to give it to someone else.
And that's part of the challenge. And we only ever hear the horror stories, don't we, about things like that where people have lost millions because they can't access something. I'm just a massive skeptic. Maybe that's because I'm a lot older than you guys. I don't know, if we're a different generation, you know, I don't know. I like to see, feel and touch stuff before I trust it really. Just moving on a bit, then there's obviously setting up any business, everyone's going to have a different range of things that they need. And it's going to be very different for all of you. Are you all initially looking at this business is you, and then you work from home? Is that the same across the board? Yeah. Okay. So you don't need any people. You don't need any premises.
Sorry. For my small business, I started the business by myself, and a few months into it, I've grabbed some of my friends who I do my degree with to help me along with it. So I've got 2 people who manage social media and the Instagram and Twitter. And then I've got someone else who helps with editing because I've started a small publishing company. So I've got a team of 4 people, including myself. And I found that really works because at the moment I'm doing my master's in publishing. So I kind of needed some people to help me along with it, but also it then gives them things that they can write on the CV and be a little bit more profitable to any publishing companies that they apply to. In terms of premises and stuff, it's all online. So the way we get our business is we do a submissions call on our Twitter or Instagram, on our website, and then authors would then submit to our email. We go through and then we say which authors that we would like. So at the moment we're in the process of doing our second anthology, which is a collective work of short stories, poetry, stuff like that. So in terms of premises, it's really easy because you can just do it anywhere, which is really nice.
Well, it's great from a cost perspective.
exactly, yeah,
So are you generating revenue at the moment then? You have been for some time.
yeah.
And how's that going then?
It's going really well.
Okay.
So I've got a profit at the moment of £364,
Right,
which isn't a lot, but it's still quite a bit.
that's better than a loss,
Yeah, but we've paid off all our production costs.
right?
So it's really lovely actually because the formatting, the way we format the anthologies, the InDesign Adobe services, we get free with uni. So we don't have to pay any cost for InDesign. So we do two kinds of products. We do a digital version of the anthology, and we do a physical version. Yeah. So with the digital version, we literally convert the Adobe InDesign into a PDF, and 100% of that is profit because we don't have to pay for it. Yeah, it's just time, and that's the thing. That's why I invited lots of people to help me, because the first anthology I did completely by myself,
Okay.
and it was amazing, but also it took way, like, the amount of time that I was putting into it, because I was doing social media, design, editing, everything. It was like, oh my god, this is way too much.
Also thought there, so from where you are, you're a bit further down the path than a lot of other people then. Have it's almost like you've been through that testing phase. Have you learned quite a lot from going through that, where in terms of how you operate now is different than how you did a few months ago?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, what sort of things have you learned by going through that testing phase? Because that might be quite useful to other people too.
I think having people help me was really good, because I learned the limitations of what I could do just myself. So for example, I've got other commitments, like I work part-time, I'm doing a master's, you know, I've got like a personal life, like, and I'm trying to have a personal life. And it was hard to do every single aspect by myself, and still, like, because I did an undergrad in English literature and creative writing, and then now I'm doing publishing, I'm not incredibly like savvy with everything in the business aspect. So for example, one of the girls who works for us, her degree is in social media and journalism. So she and another girl, they run both social medias and the website, and that's so amazing because she can bring her insight into like what she's learned for her degree, use it for that, and she has more of like a nuance for that kind of thing. So we're kind of playing on each other's skill set, which is really good. And it's not just me and my knowledge or lack of knowledge.
That's a slide later on that we'll come to. So all about recognising your own limitations and what you're good at and what you're not so good at, and the stuff you're not so good at, what you're going to do about that. So you could either go and get some training and develop those skills, or you could do what you've done and get a team. And that's probably, I think, is the reason why you get a team to help you with stuff that you aren't so good at. You don't want your team to be mirror images of you, do you? I would imagine. Okay. And are you paying the people who work in the team as well? Are doing it? Is it a voluntary thing, or are you bribing them with like chocolate or whatever?
So it's a voluntary thing because I can't afford to pay anyone.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, the amount of money that we've spent on the business, because literally everything else was able to do for free. We spent money on we have like a monthly cost of the website because we sell our products through the website. So we have to pay the website to be able to do that. And then the only other production cost we have was for the physical editions of the anthology, which was like £225 for 100 copies. And then
How did you find your supplier for that then?
literally just looked online, and said like online, I think it was online printing press. And I also asked because the small press community are really lovely and we all like talk to each other, I got in touch with some people who were also like small press founders and stuff, and they recommended some suppliers to me. And
how did you know how many books to get published to order?
Yeah, I chose 100 because I already decided that for my first anthology, I had about 23 authors.
Mhm.
And I already decided that because I wasn't paying them in advance or anything like that, I would give each of the authors a free copy of the physical edition and they would just have to pay the shipping wherever they were.
Okay.
So I chose 100, so then I would have 77 copies left over. The main reason why I chose 100 was because it was really easy on the maths, because it was 225, and then literally it was like £2.25 a copy.
Okay.
And if I had bought 50, it would have had like, it would have been £4 something.
Yeah, there's economies of scale. aren't
Yeah.
there? Have you sold all those 77?
So I've got 33 left.
Right, okay.
So yeah, we've done.
Why haven't you grown with it?
Yeah.
You might sell it.
Oh, very good.
How have you been marketing the?
Social media, social media, and also networking and events. So with the publishing masters and also the undergraduate English Lit and Creative Writing, they produce a student anthology called Beyond the Walls. And I was really lucky because I'm really close to the guy who does the Beyond the Walls is my tutor for publishing, and he said like bring Whimsical Press along, sell some of your copies, and on that event we sold, I think it was like 20 copies. I brought like 24 thinking that'd be a bit too much, and we sold 20 and it was amazing.
The other thing I'm interested in is there are people here who've got ideas where you could work with each other.
Yeah.
So there's definitely your one and your one as well, Martina. Definitely people who've got social media type businesses out there, where I'm thinking there's got to be benefit in terms of you as a group all having a conversation with each other, saying how can we become each other's customers and suppliers, especially when you're going through, it was on that previous slide, especially when you're going through that testing phase. You know, hopefully this is a safe environment where you can all be trusted advisors really and help each other. So if you or you, Martin, have got really good social media knowledge, how can that help you and anybody else for that matter?
Just a shameless plug, Sam, and we have the Facebook group Kickstart Together, which is the platform I'd love for that to develop for students to support one another. And then there's been a little bit of that so far. You know, we've had a video student supporting two theatre students who wanted a video creating. So please use the platform to reach out to one another and ask each other for support, or if you want to test, you know, and get feedback. You know, it's a small group now, but I want it to expand. And obviously, when more people join, then you've got a bigger pool of people to get feedback from. Kickstart Together Facebook group.
Yeah, I think make use of those resources that you've got here locally, because outside of there, it's a big, mean, nasty world, isn't it? And people will be very quick to call you out if they don't get what they want when they want at the right price and all that sort of stuff. It's too easy nowadays, isn't it? Just to vent your anger on social media with someone who you've never met before. What about the money aspect of setting up a business then? You know, a lot of what you've done sounds like it's just been a case of your own time.
Yeah.
And yours sounds similar as well. So maybe there's not that desire or need as much to raise money. You have had to raise some money because you've had to get production done, haven't you? What about anyone else? Where are you in terms of understanding how much you need to get it off the ground? Or is it just your own time that gets it there?
I think it's the ongoing cost and stuff that they're on to. Because like you, I get free Adobe Pixel media production. Obviously, once you graduate, that runs out. So I've been trying to take into consideration not just the initial investment of like, for me, it's like camera kit, gear and stuff like that. But then that starts paying for like video editing, photo editing, Photoshop. Depending what services you want for Adobe, it's got something for everything. And it's how much you need. Whereas I've only got 3 or 4 months of that free, which then I don't start paying for it.
And tech's expensive, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like running a website, you know, about £17 a month, it's like, you want to go with private home under main name, it's all monthly costs that you need to have at least a consistent level of base profit to cover that.
Yeah. So if you, I mean, there's an argument to say on day one, you don't necessarily need the most expensive bit of kit that's out there, don't you? In years to come, when you've got the profit and the cash there, then brilliant. Have you got any thoughts on how you raise that money that allows you to say this is me, I'm now available to start trading?
So because don't rent until November, I still have access to all that stuff. I've got access, I can rent out kit from here.
Okay.
So I've got access to all this like £1,000 worth of kit that I can just get for free.
Yeah.
So I've been doing that, hoping I can get some ongoing clients of, like, say, film maybe a month's worth of content for them or something, and have that constantly going out.
Right.
I want to have clients on retainer rather than just an initial thing. So that way it's
Completely
consistent
agree.
income.
Yeah.
And that way I'll always know I've got consistent retainer clients, that bit might fund this bit. And by then I'll have consistent clients anyway, that shouldn't be too much of an issue by the time I have to start paying for those ongoing consistent
Okay.
costs and stuff.
Has anybody else got that type of business model where you potentially look to get regular monthly customers on that return, which is the absolute dream, and ideally at a level where you've got sufficient clients on a return that covers all your overheads, so that any one-off jobs you get just becomes pretty much immediate profit because you've met all your overheads already. Anyone else use that? Yeah. Okay. So what's your name? Ben. So what Ben talked about, I think, is the absolute dream. You know, if you can get clients, and this exists in social media, doesn't it? You know, if you get a business that says, right, we will pay you X amount of pounds per month to run our social media for you, and you sign a contract with them or whatever it is, and they pay you every month. That's great. If you can get that amount of customers to a level where you've got your overhead covered, you're in a what I think is a dream scenario there. And then over and above that, you're going to pick up little odd one-off jobs here and there. Because you've got all your overhead covered, most of that money from those one-off jobs then drops straight through to your bottom line and becomes almost immediate profit. There will be a bit of cost, but far less. The margins will be much better. And well, they will be, because the one-off jobs you'll be able to charge higher prices than you will for your
There's no
clients.
special offers and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So that as a model, you can't apply it in every business scenario, depending what your offer is. But if you can, it's a really great way. I really like that idea of approaching that, because it gives you that bit of a safety net, really. And the challenge is you've got to keep delivering for those customers who you've got on a retainer then, because particularly in social media, it's a competitive marketplace. You know, we've got two people sat here who potentially delivering sort of broad, similar offer. But the minute you stop delivering, your clients are going to go elsewhere. But as long as you keep delivering, you know every month you've got your overhead covered. What a great place to be. You know that the first minute that month you get a one-off job, virtually all of that is going to be profit. Yeah, good question. What about anyone else in terms of actual money? Anyone else need to?
So for me, I'm a search engine optimization specialist. So driving traffic to people's websites, I realized that I needed a website myself. So and that cost about £140 something. I also need to pay for SEMrush, which is what I use to contact most of my clients, because I am focused on startups and small businesses. So there are other people in this niche as well. But when I check their customers, I find out that they are actually not focused on startups. So there's a gap there, because most startups and small businesses cannot afford to get an SEO executive to run their business.
That might be why they're not focused on startups.
Yes. So, but then what I'm doing is that I'm offering value for a lesser price. So trying to optimize their website. So with SEMrush, I have to pay about £200 every month. So, but I'm able to get my clients. So I got a few clients on SEMrush because I checked their website, I audited their website for them, and I contacted them, saying, okay, I have done this on the website. this is what you are lacking, I can do this for X, Y% amount. And they were happy about it. So I don't really need any equipment. All I need is money to keep my seminar going, because seminar is better than any other or HRs, but seminar I use anyway. So yes, that's it. And then yes, some of my clients want me to meet me physically.
Yeah.
In the conference, yes, because they are business owners. So I find that I have to use coffee shops in Leeds. I live in Leeds.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did think about the enterprise center, maybe because I do not have clients in York, so bringing them all the way to York. But most times they want you.
Or maybe get clients in York.
Yeah, sure, really, yes.
Yeah.
So, but they want to meet you physically because they don't know anything about SEO, right? So I am not doing Instagram, social media. I'm optimizing your websites technically and every other way. So they want to see what you're talking about.
Mhm.
So when I have to show them, so they need to meet you
Yeah.
physically. So
Yeah. So coming back to the money then, Martin, have you got any ideas on how you're going to raise that money to cover your ongoing costs?
yeah, so it's retainership. So like you said, I learned that from you.
Right.
Mentor.
Yeah.
And so the retainership thing is what I am going to use to cover that cost of the SEMrush. But I'm bad with graphics, so I need to employ somebody that is good with graphics.
Okay.
Yes, because they really do not just want, they'll tell you, okay, like one of the businesses I met, he said, oh, fantastic, I love your SEO and all of that. Can you just manage all of my media pages? And I'm like, okay. But then I need someone with graphics. So I have the content, but I'm bad with graphics.
Anyone here good with graphics?
So I have
We
to
might have
pay.
some work for you if you are.
I have to pay someone to do the graphics, and then
Okay.
on Fiverr and Upwork, I got some jobs. So I'm able to cushion the money part effect of paying for those things, but I still need to pay people for graphics because doing everything at the same time is going to be overwhelming.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and plus I'm doing my masters, I'm doing my dissertation now, and it's on SEO for small businesses.
Yeah.
So
There's a lot of you out there doing things like masters, and I said business, trying to manage a personal life. I'm impressed. I'm impressed. Good on you. Is that
Customers in the big real world. Well, I work in customer service, so I'm doing this right now. People are like, I don't get the right sausage roll, and that must be asked for.
Yeah.
Because again, it's like, let's pretend like it's all your fault all the time.
Yeah.
Which I think is,
Well, that comes perfectly onto that one there, resilience.
resilience.
Not everything is going to go right all the time every single day. Now, I'd probably like to think if you've been to here and you've done your degree and you're doing the masters and things like that, you've probably got to build resilience already. But I think the reason I put it up there, it's about knowing what to do to kind of rebuild your resilience if you feel it wavering a bit. Now I know what I do for myself. Put on a pair of trainers and I go for a run. Do you all know what it is that each of you needs to do for yourself? We've all got different. You said why?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, that's fine as long as you know it really works that way. Yeah. Yeah. And it's probably a bit like me. As long as I don't run too much, as long as you don't whine too much, then it's not too bad. But you've got to be resilient, haven't you? Because not every potential customer you pick to is going to say yes. Not every supplier you approach is going to offer you services and goods at the price you want to pay and the terms that you want to pay. So do some of you feel like you get knocked down too easily at all? I don't see that as being an issue. How thick's your skin? Kind of what we're saying here. You all happy with where you are with that? Yeah.
If
Something
it's
you-
not something new, you think, oh, this is, I'll be interested to see how this goes, and then you sort of hear no word back, it can get a bit disheartening. But then I think also when you recalibrate your expectations to exactly how difficult it's going to be, oh, it's going to be more difficult than I thought it was, then at least have a better expectation of what to expect.
Yeah.
It's not just going to happen like that, it's going to take longer.
Yeah.
I think that is disheartening at the beginning, but then you, again, you learn from that.
I think enjoy your successes as well. We're too quick to
Just say,
to move straight on to the next
Yeah.
thing. So if you have a success, if you have a good sale, good meeting, whatever, enjoy it, make the most of it before you immediately go on to the next thing. It's the same in my world in running. People say, oh, you run, I don't know, you run 10K, what's your best time? And you tell them the time. And then immediately saying, oh, why don't you try and run a bit quicker? So I actually want to celebrate the fact that I've just run the best time that I've run, but someone's trying to go quicker straight away. Okay, the last one I put on there, really important. When I'm talking to businesses, the most enthusiastic person in the room for me has got to be the business owner. You know, if I'm looking at investing my time, if an investor's looking at investing their money, the bank's looking at lending in the money, they want to see that the most enthusiastic person in their room when they're talking about their business is you. So what I like to see, and I'm trying to think, I've certainly seen you now, I've seen you do it, when you're talking about your idea, that's smiling and people talking passionately about what we do. Are you all excited about your ideas that you've got?
yes.
Yeah, good answer. Yeah, because if you're not, my kind of blunt response to that is if you're not excited about it, why should anybody else be? And if you're trying to talk to an investor, a customer, a supplier, and you sat there with a long face and you're a bit monotone and don't sound too upset, they're not going to be as well. And it's a big world. There's other customers and other people to lend money to invest money and things like that. They might not choose you just because of how you approach with that. You know, you've got to temper it. You know, you can't. You've got to be measured, I think, in it, things like that. But probably got to look like it excites you. I'm not saying it doesn't, but I'm saying it's really important that comes across, because that's one of your biggest selling techniques. Is that, you know, you think about Dragon's Den, and I know it's all a bit fake to a certain extent, but how people come across is really important, especially if you know you're going to be pitching to people, to organisations, and how you come across is a big part of it. Your body language, like that, and you can get training in some of these things, especially around resilience. You know,
There's a great YouTube channel called Charisma Command. And the feminist guy talks about, you know, different people, like some of his clients. This person studied some sort of technology degree or something, and he got this promotion over everyone else, but obviously watched his channel and then taken points, whether or not this is true or not, this is what you say. But you gave lots of really good points, so when you're talking to people, make sure you use eye contact and all different things, make sure you talk to every person or look at every person or whatnot. So always, I'm not looked at someone else, so I can't remember everything said. But there was a lot of stuff in there that was like, oh, this is really quite good. And I was to say, if you want one, you can pay this. And I was like, no, but thank you for that. I'll pay that thing.
yeah,
But that can also be because like people in the media as well and say, why does this person come across well? Why does this person not come across well? What is it that this person does that this person doesn't do? Like we're giving interviews or actors or whatever. What is it about them that either draws you in or doesn't? So that was really interesting as well. So I'd recommend people watch.
yeah. There's a balance in terms of eye contact. Really.
Yeah.
There's a point at which it becomes a bit scary.
Yeah.
It's like too much. But you think about your own personal situation. You know, I'll give an example. You know, we've got a friend of ours at the moment. She's a good friend, and we've been used to spending loads of time with her. She's not very well, sadly, at the moment, and she's got quite a debilitating illness. Now, how that's impacted for her is her demeanour has completely, it's dropped, it's kind of dropped through the floor, and I can understand that she's in pain like constantly. How we see that is she's become harder to be around. It makes me and my wife sound like we're right kind of people. We're not, but she almost saps our energy rather than contributes to our energy, which she did before. So we're kind of subconsciously thinking we don't want to spend as much time around this person as we maybe once did, because we come away and thinking that was tough. Now we're very empathetic because she's in a lot of pain, but you know, people who want to spend time with your business and help your business, they want to see, they want to get that energy out of meeting you and come away from meeting. I come away from meetings when I've met people who are really enthusiastic and I think, wow, I really enjoyed that. I got a lot out of that. So if you get the reverse of that, you think about situations you've been in. You know, I always think about, you know, I've been out on some dreadful dates with people, and they probably thought the same about me as well. They probably watched me and think, my God, that was a pretty difficult few hours of my life. But think about those situations where you've actually had a really good time meeting, you know, social occasion, whatever it is, how much positivity that has added to your own. For me, it makes a difference, and how you come across it makes a difference. So it's really worth thinking about.
Oh, no, it is that. What have I done, Richard?
Sure. Spare me, anyone?
See, I was right. So I'm exactly.
Which one was it? This one.
Risks. Yeah, risks.
There we go.
Right, okay, so the bits we don't want to think about in terms of business. You know, you look out the window now and it's blue skies and the sun shining. Is it like that every single day in York? So what have you thought about in terms of the risks? And it's everyone, every single idea, everyone who's got there is risk involved in that, and that's life. And that's fine. It's having the mitigation for that risk. And knowing that you're actually taking a calculated risk. You know, the minute you start investing time and money in something, you are taking a risk. You're taking a risk when you walk out your door and cross the road every morning, aren't you? And every day of your life so far, that's been fine. You know, you've opened your eyes and you've looked what's coming and you've got across the road, thank God for that. You know, you've survived another day. But talk to me about the risks you've got in your business and what you're doing to manage those. Who wants to start? Cool.
No, you.
Go for it.
I've watched this in yours though.
Mine is risky in all of those because, so in terms of time, it is a subsystem. Subsystems are something that are very complex and take a lot of resources, a lot of technological resources and money to create. So it'll probably take me a year to create a product that I can launch into the market, the open market. There's customers. I know that there's people out there, there's companies, there's my subsystem isn't will not only be for the common person, but it will also be for corporations to use for their supply chain or for the efficiency of the company in general. And in terms of the cash flow, the operational system for people, my plan is to give it for free and have a set of licenses to then access other resources within the system itself. That way, obviously, the common person will have access to a completely safe and efficient subsystem, but at the same time, for example, my idea is to develop a subsystem which will also create a blockchain network, which is a network, think about like the internet, for example, but within the subsystem itself. And this will then mine cryptocurrency within itself. So to do that, for example, you would to get access to the cryptocurrencies itself, then you would have to access a license. But that license wouldn't be very, very costly, but it'll take a bit of money.
Yeah. So again, I've got absolutely no idea what you're talking about. But what I would say is in in the world of sort of software and hardware, it's obviously dominated by some very, very large, very well established players, isn't it?
Yeah.
As a sole trader, as you are at the moment, in terms of risk, how do you break into that market that's dominated by some of the biggest companies in the world?
Yeah, well, since it's a subsystem, it can be marketed as something that will help you. So people will look at it not as this will replace Windows or this will replace your current operational systems, which is iOS, macOS, Windows, which is what runs your computer, right?
Okay.
So instead of companies will not look at it as something that is going against them, but rather it will be something that they can apply themselves into their companies. So my idea can be also used as a subcontract for a big company. That way, I'm not trying to be an enemy. I'm trying to be your ally. And I feel like that's how the world should work as well.
Okay.
So that's my idea.
Okay. I like it. I do like it. How do you think companies would react to buying products off, and I think you could answer it, but buying products off someone they've never heard of before, especially when it's a product like that that can get access to their entire organisation, can't it? How would you get around that? Is it by that subcontracting way, so that the company's not necessarily buying from you, rather than they're buying from a main distributor?
Yeah.
You happen to supply.
Yeah.
Is that the approach?
That's sort of the approach I'm trying to take.
Okay.
So the company, once you have my subsystem or my idea, my subsystem, you have complete control over it. That is my purpose. For companies, people, anybody, have completely secured system. Because if you, let's say you're a startup, like all of us want to be, and you have something, you have a precious idea, and that's a treasure. Your ideas are treasured, right? If you can put it somewhere that can be applicable to all of the other aspects of your life, and you know for a fact that it won't be hacked, or it won't be vulnerable to other people, that for me is your question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe for you, because at some point, I'm guessing will you be looking for an investor at some point?
Yeah.
So maybe what's really important from your perspective, the investor, is not just their money, but also their contacts.
Yeah.
So it might all well be good taking thousands and thousands of pounds from the investor, but if they can't open any doors for you, they're not really particularly useful to you.
Yeah.
I think, going back to what I spoke about, so the angel network we're trying to establish in York and North Yorkshire, is if we could find someone who's got loads of contacts in your sector that you're looking to develop, so as well as bringing you money, they bring you contacts, and you can use their credibility to give you credibility, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's got to be, there's two things that an investor can bring. One is money, and two is opening that doors. And I think in your case, that door opening is really, really important. What about risks for anybody else? Is it something you give much thought to? Or are you just thinking everything's going to go well all the time?
Honestly, the algorithm is changing every day.
Yeah.
So you can rank a website might rank #1 today on Google, and tomorrow it might be on the second page. So you have to keep optimizing, and there's no guarantee with SEO.
So in a year's time, you've got 100 customers. And on a Tuesday in June, and they're all on page 1 of Google. And this is the bit I can't get my head around, because not everybody can be on page 1, can they?
No.
And if they've all been SEO optimized, how can they all be on page 1? But that's a separate conversation. But if they're all 100 businesses, all in 100 completely separate industries, and you've got them ranked on 12th of June, page 1. Tomorrow the phone rings, Martina, you said we were going to be on page 1, and
Yeah,
we've
so
got coming
that's
to
the possibility. You have to consistently. So at some point, I cannot manage the 100 page. I have to now start niching out. Like, okay, have somebody managing the restaurant business, real estate, something like that. So
do you know then? Have you looked that far ahead? You think, right, once I've got a certain amount of customers, I need to get more staff
Yes.
and ramp it up again, and then it plateaus for a bit, and then you go again. And you know where that point is, do you?
Yes.
Right, good, okay.
When you were saying there about potential risks, obviously, with social media, you can be hacked a lot and you can use everything that.
With anything, work a bit out, something.
Yeah, so, also when you say there's a markup, when the year before I came throughout the pandemic, when I'd finished the undergrad and couldn't do anything because we were in lockdown, I was putting everything I did and taking onto my Instagram and everything. I managed to have like 500 followers, which is nothing, but it was a start. And when I was doing it, I made sure to copy and paste everything to a Word document and everything was in a file folder. So just in case somebody did hack me or I lost everything on the page, it would just be take a day to re-upload everything. Obviously, you lose all the followers if you have, but the work itself wasn't completely destroyed.
Yeah,
So I think having some sort of fail safe, same with pen drives if they corrupt, or your technology will only last so long until it breaks, or even with the drone, that's why I'm doing all the qualifications to make sure that I'm using it properly, that I'm not going to crash it, because there's only one that I can get with the money that I'm going
Yeah.
to spend.
Yeah.
So I think technology itself is very fragile. The internet is built on fragments of computers everywhere. It's a very fragile thing. So I think they're just trying to back yourself up with as many different hard drives and things as possible.
well, there's in many cases, there's a lot of free things you can do about it. Cyber security is one of the, I should have put it up there, it's one of the biggest risks out there. Right. How many times do we read in the news? Now, last week it was Boots and whatever. It's large organisations being hacked all the time, hacked up to data and things like that. But it's not just large organisations; it's really small ones as well. There are free stuff that you can access to help with that sort of thing. Because how many people are actually experts in cybersecurity? Not many, but the reality of it is a lot of it is really simple stuff to do. And cybersecurity, when people do hack it usually comes about, doesn't it, as a result of human intervention. It's somebody in your organisation done something stupid
Or it's
without realising.
Clapped on somebody's got an email.
Yeah,
It's sent emails from me to me, and I'm like, I didn't say that.
yeah. But part of I'm going to plug Emma and Vishal and the team at the Enterprise Engineering. Part of the benefit there of engaging with the folks there is they can link you in with a whole range of wider support that includes things like cyber security, and you can access. There is free stuff that can help you in that area. And anyone else want to share what we think their risks are and what?
Sorry, I think you wanted to say something.
Yeah.
I was gonna say with mine, I think my biggest, or one of my biggest risks is time delays and like the insufficient amount of customers and stuff. And I think it's one of those things that it's why, like you said earlier, retaining clients are the best clients to get, stuff like that. Because
Yeah.
you always got guaranteed, well, not guaranteed, but you've always got a consistent or because you can rely on to provide that initial costs and stuff. I think that's the best way to get around the insufficient clients aspect. Because
How will you get customers in the first place?
so I said market digitally and physically. Like I want to focus on like small businesses and like small enterprises and stuff like that. So everyone typically don't have much of a clue about their advertising aspect. So I'd go in like so I'll try and get my first few clients in person, like face to face, rather than just kind of social media stuff.
Okay, so I'm a small business working away in the central York right now, trying to do my social media by myself. I think I know what I'm doing, but I'm probably not as effective as I could be. How do I get to know about you and how you can make my life better so that I can sell more products and then?
So assuming I like knew about you and stuff, I'd come in and be asked you about your social media. Obviously, I know you've looked into it. I know exactly what you've got. I'd probably say something like,
Okay, so when you try that, I say, Ben, I'm getting people I'm getting people emailing me every day about social media services. I'm too busy. I'm deliberately being a pain in the ass. So, you know, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen to you, and that comes back to the previous screen and your resilience.
so I guess it depends on, obviously if you didn't get emails about other people, it depends what level they're at as well. So someone can say, just as me, then I don't really have much of an edge. But because I've been doing all this in-depth research about you, I could come up to you and be saying, I know this is what you're doing. I know this is roughly what you're probably going to get analytics wise and stuff. Here's what I've done in the past for other companies and stuff. Like I said, I did that internship, so I've got proof of what I can do. So here's some ones I've done in the past, and that was small scale. If you pay me this much, like a 3-month contract, I bet I can improve
Like
this.
quickly you get to price, so it's straight to the money. I like the fact that you've acknowledged that you've seen something about what we're doing, what we're posting. So you're identifying potential opportunity for us. The one thing I was going to say, cold calling and stuff like that is really, really difficult. I never do it. I don't need to do it. But the reason I don't need to do it is one thing that you might want to think about, and an easier way of getting yourself customers. So if your customers are going to be businesses,
Yeah.
why don't you, and if you can come back to that first screen where we talked about testing it, why don't you find out what business networking events are going on in York?
Yeah.
And go and stick yourself in the middle of that group of people. Now, it might be a bit scary, it might be a bit nerve-wracking, but it's testing your resilience. And you walk in there with your enthusiasm bit and go and test it. The stacks of networking goes on in your. We have some in the enterprise centre from time to time. So again, another reason to go and talk to Vishal and Emma and the team there and find out what events are going on. That's a kind of nicer, safer way to achieve stuff. You know, networking in York is absolutely fine. No one buys.
Yes.
You know, and as long as you're polite and enthusiastic and stuff like that, people will be exactly the same back with you. But you start to build a relationship, and what they always talk about is it's no like and trust. So once you've got to know someone, they get to like you, and then they trust you, and then they might buy from you. But especially if you've got a story, haven't you? You know, what people want to know your story. You know, you're a local student, you're going to set up your own business. This is what I'm trying to do. And they might say, oh, right, okay, I've been really struggling with that. And if you can go to an event where you can find a list of attendees first, you can do a bit of research, you can go target those people, because they all have a name badge on. And you go up to the guy and say, I've seen your content. I think I might be able to help you with it. Or asking me another way, you know, what are the challenges you find with your social media? And if they start to say things like, oh, well, I just don't have the time, or it's you know, whatever, it's you know, they're walking straight into your kind of trap, aren't you, really? But that is a much better way, I think, it's just my view, it's a much better way of going about it than trying to cold call people, because you are going to get, for every 10 calls you probably get 9 people saying, I'm not interested, thanks. I've got a supplier already, they're doing fine, thanks very much. How can you be better than fine? Because fine is never that great, is it? You're in a restaurant and the waiter comes over, house meal, it's fine. And they walk away and they never say anymore, but a fine meal is not that great, is it really? Anyone else? Go on.
What is it called?
Just picking the phone and ringing a business up.
Oh, okay.
So without an appointment or anything like that. So that's why it's called cold.
Oh, okay.
A warm call would be where I've said to a friend of mine who owns a business in York, I've said, I met this guy at York, John today. He's got this tech solution. He's going to give you a call. Is that all right? I think so. They're expecting your call, whereas cold is basically just when they're not expecting your call.
So
Your phone rings and someone's trying to sell you something, and you have to make a lot of calls for that to work. And I've never liked doing it. So, anybody else in terms of risks? What happens when you've got 23 books left?
33.
33. What happens with those 33 books if we go outside?
Well,
Or museums?
well, the plan is to, because I've got another anthology in the works, and then the plan is to do another one after that. So 3 anthologies in total for the year. And the plan is whatever stock I've got left over, then we could do like a bundle of 3 anthologies for the price of whatever. So 3 for the price of 2 or something. Because I'm planning to do this anthology that I'm working on to be published like first week of August. and then the third one to be published first week of December, so it's like just in time for Christmas. So like knowing how important publication is in terms of like timing. So for example, I wanted the third one, I like really want it to be published like first week of December. So we can get on all of that social media marketing of like, if you haven't got a copy of the first anthology or the second anthology, you could get the bundle where you could get 3 for 1 price or something. Also, I've got people who I'm friends with who have their own small businesses in terms of like, they do like jewelry or crystals and whatever like that, and partnering with them and doing like a special, like for your pre-order, you can buy a special edition where you get the anthology, maybe like a little necklace along with it, and then that's supporting their business and giving it a little bit more of that like exciting exclusive edition.
Do you know who your target audience is?
Yeah, so our target audience like really varies because the press is it's called whimsical press. It's all about like nature, fantasy, everything like that. We've got a combined following on our socials of like 1,400. So we do have quite a lot of following, which is really good. But it's mostly like other authors that are wanting to get started up, or it's people who are interested in books like The Hobbit, or like Wind in the Willows and stuff like that. It's not very like the way we market is we say if you like these books, you'll really like those.
And that's what a lot of, you see that a lot doing online clothing.
Yeah.
You know, customers who bought this also bought this.
And what we really like, what I really found successful is by having 2 people do social media and a website. I've got someone who regularly does like a weekly blog post, and it's about anything. It's about like how to cope with writer's block, or like where in Yorkshire it's amazing to go for inspiration for writing.
Yeah.
So like, and it covers like a wide range of things that brings lots of people. But I'd say like a risk that we have is probably like legal documents and stuff like that, because I'm looking to expand whimsical press not only to doing like collections of short stories and poetry, but to be able to have an author and make a contract and they could write like a novel for us. But to do that, you need all the legal documents of, for example, we'd pay them like £100 advance, and then when they make back that advance, they would get like 10% of profits or something like
I
that.
think you can use, tell me if I'm wrong, Richard, can you use the law school students here to help with that?
Yeah, the law clinic,
Yeah,
yeah. They might be able to help with contracting.
yeah,
Yeah, we've got later this week, we've got a contracting session.
yeah.
Because if you went to a solicitor in town, you'd absolutely get what you want, but it costs you
Exactly,
a lot
yeah.
of money. A lot of money, so you might not have that.
Okay.
So if that's service is available here,
Yeah.
Yeah.
then maybe more than most of it. Okay. This bit is just giving you a bit of food for thought, really, about things you might want to think about. We've kind of touched on it a little bit already. We talked about it in terms of what you've learned through that process. So that's that measuring. You know, your product or your service needs to continually evolve, doesn't it? Because it's a competitive world out there. So thinking about the things you're going to do, how are you going to measure what you've learned as you've gone on? You know, how are you going to make sure that the next book you produce is in some way better? You know, the things that went wrong last time, not necessarily went wrong, didn't go as well as it could have done last time. How are you going to make sure that they're better this time? And one way of doing it is putting metrics in place so you can measure that. trying to think in your world, where Martin, thinking about, I don't know, SEO, there's all sorts of metrics there, aren't there, around how effective are you being with getting your client as high up those Google rankings as you possibly can, so that you can, you know, if I'm paying you money, I want some sort of analysis track for you to say this, you know, I want to be able to understand. Last month was this month is this, and how do the two compare? When it comes to the thorny issue of cash, how comfortable is everyone doing a cash flow forecast, even just a simple one?
No, I don't know. Really do a lot of research as well.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else feel in the same position as Adam? Yeah. Yeah. Everyone, I mentioned cash and everyone's gone quiet.
I think it's weird that we went through all of high school and we ever said that it's like, do your tax return.
Yeah.
Okay.
True.
Schools don't teach you how to run businesses, does it? They certainly didn't when I was there.
Yeah.
Okay, so you touched an interesting point, because there's one aspect of it is your cash flow. Your tax and your VAT and things like that are a separate aspect.
A lot of people don't really don't understand it.
Yeah, well, and that comes down to your wider team, doesn't it? Your team doesn't necessarily have to be your employees, it's the people you pay, like an accountant, for example. So I can talk a little bit around cash. I won't talk about tax and VAT too much, because I'm not an accountant. I don't want to tell you something that's wrong. But doing a simple cash flow forecast it's got to be really, really important. You've got to do it, because having that knowledge of where you are and what's coming, you're better off knowing that. Even if it's bad, it's better to know that it's bad than just keep your head in the sand. You know, I remember when I was a student, you used to go to the cash machine, and Friday night, stick your bank card, because we didn't have mobile phones, and you stick your bank card in that cash machine, put your pin number in, and obviously got it chucks 20 quid out of it. Because I'd known cash flow as an 18-year-old. I was just hoping that the bank had decided they would set enough money in there to give me 20 quid. I didn't know. But how much better would I have felt? I don't know, quite exciting waiting to find out whether I'd get some money out of it or not. How much better would it have been had I known that? So simple cash flow, one page spreadsheet, and I'm guessing, correct me if I'm wrong, you're all familiar with Excel spreadsheets, I would assume. Yeah, okay. So, I mean, I can send you a simple template around, but it's as simple as you can do it month by month, or you can do it day by day. So for me, for my personal bank account, I like to know what I've got coming in and coming out. So for every day of the month, I've got my own personal spreadsheet on my laptop at home, where it's one of the first things I do every morning, and I just plug it in, so I always know my personal stuff, what's going on. So you can do it every day, you can do it every week, you can do it every month. It varies on your business, but top bit, you just plug in your revenue, your incomings. Now, depending where you are with your business and how your business is structured, there's going to be a bit of guesswork involved in that. If you think about what we talked about with having clients on retainers, now hopefully that guaranteed income throughout the year, so you can plug that in. You could have a line in your revenue that said retain the clients, and say they're paying you £1,000 a month. So every month in the year, you plug a thousand quid in for every month. If you've got 10 of them, you plug 10 grand in, whatever it is. So you know, unless you breach contract or something goes wrong, that money is coming in. When you're thinking about forecasting, that's as good as it gets. You've got an order and you know it's going to happen. Underneath that, you can put in what your actual forecast is, and even going into more detail on that, where I've seen it, one of the charities I work with, they plug in, they bid for grant monies all the time, so they plug into theirs what they've bid for and what the likelihood is that they're going to land that money. So their revenue forecast has kind of got several different sections to it. So the first section is we bid for £500,000 of grant to then deliver what the charity delivers. Okay, what they've done separate to that is they've said, right, that £500,000 is made up of 10 different grant applications. Let's say they're all 50 grand a piece, just to make the maths easy. They've then said, out of all those 10 applications, we think these first 5 have got a 90% chance of being landed. because it's organisations who provided them with grants before, they've got a really good track record. So they think there's a really strong likelihood they'll get it. They've then said further down at the very bottom, they said, right, with this one, we've never come across this organisation before. We're just putting a speculative bid for a grant. So we're going to put that in as a 10% chance of winning it. So they know when they look at their cash flow forecast, when they actually drill down into it, they know what the reality is based on assumptions, really, whether it's really likely to come in or whether it's highly unlikely to come in. And then they can measure the rest of it on there. So your revenue in most cases is your biggest bit of guesswork in a cash flow forecast. The bit you tend to know with more certainty is what comes below that line, which is your costs, your overheads. You generally know pretty well what they're going to be. So most of you have said you're going to be working from home initially, something like that. Okay, so you'll know what the overhead is there. Now, if you want to get into it, you can go and talk to an accountant and say, right, how much of my cost of working from home can I offset against this business? So if you're working in one room in a 4-bedroom house, you can start to say, right, 25% of the costs of this house are coming out of my business. So you can then put some of the electric and the gas and the water against your business rather than against you personally. Now, if you want to get into that level of detail, you need to go talk to an accountant, not me. But that's stuff that you can legitimately do, and you can allocate some of your house costs. You're treating one room as a business premise effectively, and you can set that off against your business costs. But there's all sorts of other costs out there, you know, with your Amazon type business, you know, logistics, postage, packaging, things like that. You will know once you've done your research how much it costs to post one package. Therefore, you will know how much it costs to post 10, how much to post 100. You plug that in, you know, vehicles, transportation, you know, bus fare, whatever, you know. The benefit of knowing your costs is once you know your costs, you then therefore know what you need to be making each month to cover those costs. And that comes back to that very first slide when we talked about testing it. You know, so if you're thinking, right, it's going to cost me £1,000 a month to run my business based on my most educated guesswork right now, you know how many books you need to sell, how many pairs of socks you need to sell, whatever it might be, how many bits of drone footage you need to do. And from there, you can start to work out your pricing as well. So, you know, if I'm thinking I've got £1,000 a month of overhead, okay, and I'm going to be doing, and I don't know if this is feasible or not, I'm just doing it because the numbers are easy. I know that I've got 10 hours of drone footage that I've got booked this month. This is what I need to be pricing that at to make sure that I cover my overhead. Yeah, and I mean, you wouldn't want a situation where you're changing the price of your drone footage every month. But you can start to get that, you know, you can average it out and start to think, right, this is how much I need to be pricing my hourly rate at to cover my.
Competitive with other people in the area, or it's competitive with what people do.
Absolutely, because it's no good saying, right, okay, because of my overhead, I need to be pricing myself at £100 an hour, because that's far too much compared to what other people are doing, and you're going to be out of the game before you've even started. But it's all just giving you an idea, and you go back and look and say, right, my numbers are saying I need to be charging myself out of £100 an hour. That doesn't make sense. Have I got something wrong in my costings? You know, something doesn't feel quite right, and you probably wouldn't come back at that. But you're right to take into account what your competitors are doing, because you know good pricing if you
Should put yourself in the harm.
absolutely. And the danger is when you're selling your product, and when you come in and market your services to me, I want to see about the quality of the images you do. Something a bit different. Really good drone footage it's something a bit different, isn't it? And you know, I look at some of the running events I take part in. The organisers have got overhead drone footage of the entire route, and it's you like to see that stuff before you go. So it's a bit different than just seeing a bland, you know, line on the map.
Well, also, the images that have gone, and you just physically cannot take the picture from the ground because of the rubbish. Or
Yeah.
a domestic, for instance, it's going to
Yeah.
look so much better when you can get above the clouds in the morning.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of this, I mean, we're doing this would be so much better if it just wants to go and drone up.
Well, it's not just leisure, is it? You know, estate agents do drone
Yeah.
footage on, for
Yeah.
example.
Actually, that's what Jonathan Mallory, who was a graduate from here, well, it wasn't, it was actually, it was from the university, my previous one said, a lot of the stuff from estate agents is a big marketing, because they all want footage of their new, not campuses, new estates and.
Yeah.
Weddings are a massive market for drone footage.
Okay.
Yeah, massive. That's a
As long
weddings
as they're not
weddings,
really powerful,
yeah.
they wonder what I mean.
Yeah.
Everyone get shut away.
Yeah.
But yeah, making sure that also the companies don't hire him because he prices way over what this other person prices. So they also, other companies, comes people who are taking drone footage, if they don't go through me and they go through them. They say, well, don't talk to him because we got it for a much cheaper price with this person
Yeah.
because he charged too much.
The last thing you need to be talking about is price. Because you're not selling, are you, based on price? You're selling based on the quality of
Yeah.
the footage, and it's something a bit different.
Yeah.
And maybe thinking about, you know, who else is there out there who offers something that's complementary with yours. So if you're doing, I don't know, if you're doing something with the estate agents, for example, you know, I know of building surveyors now who are using drone footage a lot to, you know, to physically check on the roofs of buildings.
Of course, you can do this for specifically for checking damaged wind turbines.
Yeah, yeah,
Not that that really interests me, but you can't do it.
Yeah.
It's another income stream.
yeah,
And because there's nowhere else unless you climb up a bit and all this
Absolutely.
stuff higher.
absolutely. But if you're coming and marketing your service to me, the first thing I want to see is
What
and
I've
the first thing you should insist on showing me is the quality of what
Yeah.
you've done. The very last thing you get to is the price, because already if they've seen the value, the price is much easier to swallow.
Yeah.
You start off by saying, well, it's £1,000 for a day's work. That sounds expensive. No, thanks, it's not for me. And we've not even
But this
seen
is
what
why
you
I
can do.
use this because of what we've done before and the problems that have been encountered and what we've learned from and all that different stuff.
Yeah.
It's useful to help.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Kind of links to that. The last one I put there is about again just improving stuff based on your feedback. So continually iterating what you're doing. A bit like we said before with your books and things you said you'd learn from going through one cycle of doing that. Wouldn't it? Imagine when you've done that 50 times, how much different is that going to look in 50 publishing experiences time compared to now?
Yeah.
We'd probably be in a massively different place, I would imagine. You will learn all sorts, I'm sure. So just keep continually reviewing, get customers to tell you what they think about it. And just remember, the people who are honest and tell you the reason why they don't like it are probably better than the people who say, yeah, it's great. Because saying, yeah, it's great, it's nice feedback, but it doesn't really tell you anything, does it? It's good to have some constructive feedback in there. It's worth doing.
Very good. Yeah. So what the student is creating rugs, handmade rugs. And you've been learning as well, haven't you? You know, and you have just done the other degree show. And it's quite labour intensive, isn't it? You've learned so far. It's like to discover fund.
Okay.
To get some equipment, speeds up the process, makes it a bit more time efficient and then more cost effective. So you've learned already just by doing some testing of products.
Absolutely. I guess what's interesting in your business then is with the way you produce a rug, there is only so much you can do in an hour. Therefore, there's only so much you can do in a week. So if you were forecasting your revenue, you can base that around the fact that, you know, there's a limit on how much you can possibly do in a month, for argument's sake. And the only way to increase that is to either by getting a machine that does it quicker or by taking on staff. Is it handmade? Is that a key feature of? Yeah. Right. Okay. But is it a key selling feature that you want it to be handmade? Yeah. Okay. So I guess the very fact that it's handmade is going to put a limit on how quickly that can be made. Yeah, and therefore you know that unless you recruit more staff, there's only so much you can make in any given period. And in many ways, that's not a bad place to be because you've got a bit of certainty there. You know, you can forecast your revenue, I mean, as long as you sell the stuff as well, but you can forecast your revenue with a certain degree of certainty there because you physically can't. There's only 24 hours in a day, aren't there? You can't do any more than that. Okay. This one's really important. We touched on it a bit before. What I want to ask you the question is, have you thought about your gaps and what you might do with them? You know, there is not one single person in this room who can do everything proficiently.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Excel, so I need to learn that.
Okay. Do you know where you can go to learn that?
Well, the uni does the Excel specialist courses, do Microsoft Office specialist courses here and pay for the test. So once I graduated and I started to do it, I was going to go through Word and Excel and learn it all properly. So I use all these things a lot. I won't use it for just doing essays and things like that, which is fine for what the uni wants. But I don't feel like I'm actually using all the software in the program. And so to actually learn how to use Word and PowerPoint and Excel and all these things properly, and then get a certificate as well, because I've seen a lot of jobs that advertise proficiency in Word, proficiency in Excel. And also if you're able to go into the interview with, well, I do have, I've done a course in this and it's been quite intensive and I've learned everything there's to learn about it. That is going to help you, you know, get a job or something just in the meantime if you're waiting for till flights or whatever. I thought it would be worthwhile doing that as well.
Yeah.
So I meant then that I was getting as much as I could out of my experience.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think the most important thing about gaps is understanding what your gaps are and what you're going to do about it, rather than letting you get to the point where worst case scenario your business failed because you've not addressed your gaps. So who else has got an understanding of where those gaps are in their own businesses and what you're doing about it?
Like the whole like my whole idea is I need a team. Like there's no way I'm going to do all of this by myself, you know.
Yeah.
It's not only very time consuming, but all the technology that I'm going to need is I need specialists on that. And I'm no specialist on blockchain development. I'm no specialist on AI. I have an idea. I know the technical aspects of it, but of course I need to outsource it. But if you have any recommendation on how to find the people to help me create it? Because I can create the base of it because I know how to create my own blockchain network and I know about machine learning and all of that. But I just, if you have any.
Yeah, we talked earlier about networking events. So there's one in York called Tech York that's specifically for people with an interest in that sector. So if you get on the internet and find those guys, they will have events coming up. LinkedIn is something I use a lot. I find it really useful. It's a bit like you were saying with your social media, wasn't it? You knew you were good at that, so you got some team, you got the team, or get the volunteers, they've come in to help you, haven't they? And to do it, and much better that you had an awareness of that than try to do it yourself and do it badly, or let me rephrase that, not do it as well.
Yeah, and it's learning from it because now I look at the things that I first did and I'm like, oh my god, that's so embarrassing. Like compared with how good how they are. So for example, when we first started, we had the conversation of like building like a brand awareness and like a color palette within Instagram, because Instagram is so like because everything's on a grid when you go to the profile. It's important for all the photos to match in terms of color palette, also look like they belong and not have like random colors or random things. Yeah, and it's also like building that kind of like that image in people's mind when they think of like my publishing house. They think of, oh, that's the color palette that goes along with it, and then it so like when you think of Coca-Cola, you think of red and everything like that, and it's bringing that kind of like brand awareness to like social media and stuff like that. There's some social media like Twitter and TikTok and stuff where you can be really more casual with it. And it doesn't matter if everything's a little bit Hegel's privacy and what you do, because there's not that like rigid kind of view in terms of Instagram. And I guess it's like learning what are the social media platforms, why they succeed and what they succeed, what the customers on like say Instagram Reels, why are they different customers to TikTok?
Yeah.
And like learning what's going to get you views and likes and followers on each and different platform, and like using that to your advantage almost.
Yes. But and the great thing for me is that you understood where there was a gap and you did something about it,
Yeah,
rather than try to carry on
yeah,
knowing that you're not as good at it as other people
yeah,
are. Some of the more mundane things, but important things in terms of running business, accountancy, for example. You know, most of the accountants in York will offer you an hour free of charge. Okay, there might be something on campus related to accountancy, is it?
We've got connections, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Same with legal. Someone talked about contracts. I forget what contract. You know, again, there's services on campus that can help you. So before you start spending money or trying to raise money to spend money, find out what the campus offers you. Find out what connections the campus has got that you can benefit from. You know, there's plenty of businesses who are connected to this university who will either be able to offer things free or at cheaper rates. You know, just have a look, be nosy. That's what I thought. Or come and talk to us, or come and talk to them and the team at the Enterprise Centre. But I think the most important thing with gaps is it's absolutely fine to have a gap. Okay, we've all got them. We've all got them. The key thing is being humble enough to recognise that you've got them and do something about it. You know, and that's the critical bit. It's just acknowledging it, rather than, you know, in most cases it won't be catastrophic in terms of your business, but it could be. Could be if you don't. But if you choose not to file accounts at the company's house because you don't like doing accounts, so you haven't bothered to get something to account for your accounts, it's gonna impact your business massively. So there's some stuff you've got to do. That last one as well, your support network. So we talked about networking in the sense of going to events and meeting other people in the business community. You know, there's a huge amount of knowledge in York, but I also mean, who's your support network kind of outside of your business? You know, again, you talked about doing your masters and trying to run a business and trying to have a life at the same time. You need some support network outside of that, your friends, partners, whatever, family, whatever it might be. Going off and spending the day on the coast or in the countryside, or, you know, spending in the pub, whatever it is that does it be. Do you all know who your support network is, who can give you that and a bit of resilience boost and enthusiasm boost when things aren't quite going so well? It's a bit like gaps, really. You've got to know it's there and tap into it without becoming that energy drain that I referred to earlier on. So again, it's knowing what works for you, making sure that you do it, because your life can't be 100% 24/7 about your business. If you run yourself into the ground, otherwise. But there's plenty of people out there who want to see you succeed. You know, plenty of people in this organisation want to see you succeed. We're happy to help and answer questions and things like that. But you've got to open your mouth first and ask that question. But it's amazing when you've got a business, how many people will help you, willingly help you without wanting to charge you money for it. You go to any networking event in York and you will find stacks of people willing to help you just by having a conversation. And that conversation might save you having hundreds of pounds potentially. But you've got to be humble enough to open your mouth in the first place and say, I need a bit of help with this, can you help? Or do you know someone who can help? And people love to be useful. You know, do you know someone who can help? Yeah, possibly. We're over there. Shall I introduce you? Yeah, no problem. But you've got to ask them in the first place. There we go, about 10 minutes short of the 2 hours. We could carry on talking about stuff like that for everybody, but that's my take on the key things. It's only my view. Somebody else will have a completely different view. I hope you've got something out of that. Thank you for coming along. I know we're expecting a lot more, but we'll put it down to the sun shining. Has anybody got any questions?
Well, yeah, you know, the one networking event you were talking about, it was this month. How often do they happen? Just all the time?
Yeah.
One that you can
Yeah.
check.
So
Yeah, where was that as well?
yeah, there's absolutely stacks and stacks. Just from a York perspective, there's stacks going on in York. What I'll recommend is the stuff that's free for now, and it's just going along and getting to know people. And same with anything, as you get to know people, you will find out more about what's going on. So there is a lot of networking that's paid for, so I won't talk to you about that. The one I'd recommend starting off with in York, it's called the First Thursday, so that gives you a clue as to when it is each month. It's on Eventbrite, so if you go search for first Thursdays, First Thursday in York on Eventbrite, and you will find it. So the next one will be obviously whatever the first Thursday in July is. I think it's the 1st of July, I think. And it's free. It takes place from 12 o'clock until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And it's at Manor Hatter, the bar on Little Stonegate in town. What I really like about that is I'll probably be there, I think, if I've got time in the diary. There's no format to it, so people from across the business community turn up, and if you want to buy a drink at the bar, you buy a drink at the bar. You don't have to. Can be entirely free, but people are just there. People are just there just to have a chat and help and build up your contacts. Just find out about people, and networking is all just about getting to know people. It's not about buying and selling. It's about getting to know people. Don't ever go to a networking event and think I'm going to sell stuff here, because you won't, and you'll come across like an idiot if you try and walk in and start selling. People want to get away from you really quickly. If you walk in, I've had it before, people go in and give you a business card and start selling to you before they even bother to find out what I'm interested in buying from them. There's no point trying to sell me. They can assume it, because I can't stand this stuff. It's horrible. So don't even try. But if you got to know me and if you find out that I can't stand this stuff, you won't even bother trying to sell it to me. So just use it as a place to go and start to get to know people. You'll find solicitors there, you'll find accountants there, you'll find bankers there, you'll find people who run hotels there, people who run tourism businesses, hospitality business, all sorts of different people. Tech York will be the one. You just, again, if you search for Tech York, go and have a word with them and the team at the Enterprise Centre. They'll be able to give you the dates on that. For all you ladies in the audience, there's quite a lot of women in enterprise groups in York that offer a range of different stuff. Again, best person to ask on that is Emma. Emma's involved in some of the stuff, but go and have a chat with her. She's here to help. You don't know where the Enterprise Centre is. It's in the Car Dukes building.
Is it the entire building, or is it just like small?
Yeah.
It's just it's the bit on. It's the 2 stories on the left as you walk up to it. What numbers is it?
001, 002.
There you go.
Connect over coffee, is that still running?
Yeah, I've not seen it advertised for a while. But it's the same with anything. Once you start going to these things, you start to find out more about what's going on. I started years ago into running races, and the minute I started doing it, suddenly I became aware of this whole world where they take money from everywhere to go running. And I never knew existed before. It'd be the same with networking. People will say, come along to this. If you enjoy running, we do a networking one at 8 o'clock every Friday morning, and the name's mine. Okay, if you don't enjoy running, don't come. But that's one of the things. So there's literally all sorts going on. Just go along and give it a try. Get to know people and find out. Ask them, what else goes on in York that might be useful to me, like in a tech business or whatever.
What's the one on Friday morning called?
What, the running one?
Yeah.
we took us ages to come up with this thing, it's called net. Yeah, it's down the nose, mate. 8 o'clock burner for students, but,
It's not for me, my flatmate doesn't.
oh, right, okay.
My flatmate does his.
You backtracking already. Oh, does he, right, yeah, I do part of it. You do it down the nose, mate.
Yeah, but he does them everywhere. He's trying to do them all in all of Britain, I think.
He won't be alive long enough to do all of them in Britain. There's other things like.
Yorkshire.
There's
Then.
about
I
18
think it's the thing. He's trying to do them all in Yorkshire. So I had to drive to Goole one day. To
Yeah, about 50 in Yorkshire.
Yeah. And went to Northampton one day as well.
Yeah.
So if you do the farm,
Yeah.
one that didn't record me, and I was like, no, that's that didn't work. I was like, right, that's it. So technically, according to them, I've never done one. I have done one.
It's a good thing it's Tyler and it's free. Anyone else got any questions?
What's the name of the lady you said?
Emma.
Emma.
Emma in the Inspire Centre. So if you have a chat with Bishal,
Yeah.
Bishal, are you all right?
Yeah.
Because, you know, I'll have a chat in.
Just after this meeting.
Okay.
I have a question about pricing. So I found that I was trying to get the prices of what other companies charge for the same, but they no longer put their prices.
No.
So it's
Difficult to find out in your
Yeah.
industry.
so
I think you need to focus more on value. So
so I don't
create
know
the
what
value
to
proposition first. No, I know it's really difficult, isn't it? And it's a bit like getting a website bill. How long's a piece of string? You know, you get a website bill for £300, but it might be garbage. You get a website bill for 30,000. It's what you need. I think the point first and foremost is driving your value proposition. So how do you improve? Going back to you said about what's the problem you're solving. How do you improve something for your potential customer? You know, they've got to see the value in it. If they see the value in it, they won't be bothered whether you're cheaper or more expensive than somebody else. But they've got to see the value in it first. What are you gonna help them do better? If it's social media, it's got to be about selling more products, hasn't it? How can you help? How can you help me? I've got a business. How can you help me sell more products? That's what I want to know from you.
So is it illegal to call a business and ask for their prices and then base that on like call your business call?
It's not illegal, no, but they probably won't tell you.
I mean, I'm not saying like go as a customer.
Yeah.
Go.
No, it's not. No, it's not illegal. You just need to be a bit careful how you go about doing that, because they might suck you out pretty quickly thinking.
I mean, if you are like, I have a page and like I want to grow it, and then I mean,
I think you just say, I'm just saying this type of thing, you know, what would you charge for this? And I don't know when you're trying to do it.
It's sort of thing you would learn at networking events as well.
Yeah.
If you as you get to know people, you ask them the question, you know, what's the going rate for managing their social media account? And again, there's bits with it, you know, how many posts you need, CEOs, but you know, if it's social media, how many posts you're going to do each month, each week, each day, whatever it might be. So it is difficult, but if your client sees the value first of all, the price is much easier to talk about. But if you go in there with the price, how do I know if you work there? I have no idea what. Yeah, okay.
Does anyone online have a question? I have a Q&A chat. No one has posted anything. If you do, please, you've got a couple of minutes to turn your mic off and ask a question. But I'll leave that with you. You've got an open floor if you want to. But we'll almost wrapping up now, I think.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I hope you've all found that worthwhile. I always tend to think if you go away with one thing you didn't know before, then hopefully it's been worthwhile. Thank you for turning up. Obviously, plenty didn't, but thank you for turning up. Well, for not just listening, but for taking part as well. You know, this was only going to work if you got involved and took part and the house. So thank you for sharing something. And good luck, really. And I'll be interested in hearing if anybody wants to ask any questions. I know we've got a meeting next week, Martin, but if anybody wants to ask any questions, details there. by all means get in touch. I'm happy to help. But just talk to people, build your networks, ask questions, be curious.
Thank you. Thanks, Simon.
Thank you.